In a shocking turn of events, the iconic fast food giant Burger King is facing the heat of an economic recession. As the retail crisis deepens, the once thriving chain finds itself on the brink. Join us as we unravel the compelling story of Burger King's struggle as they close hundreds of stores after filing for bankruptcy.
Burger King is about to shut down more than 300 restaurants. The move comes after several large franchisees filed for bankruptcy, citing inflation.
Not one, not two, but three major Burger King operators have filed for bankruptcy this year. These operators, the largest franchisees in Ohio, Indiana, and Michigan, are grappling with severe cash flow issues and a significant drop in customer foot traffic, sales, and profits. For years, they've been operating at a loss. That's not all. Burger King corporate executives made some tough decisions. They decided to close 124 underperforming locations between January and May. Then another 63 restaurants were taken off the menu just last month. That's a lot, right? It's a sign that things aren't going well for Burger King. The biggest pressure during all this ordeal is on the franchisees. Corporate bigwigs want them to sell their stores to other operators instead of shutting them down. Why? Because closing them could result in financial losses of around $300 million. Burger King isn't taking this lightly. They've joined forces with creditors and vendors to push for the sale of these struggling stores. They've called the franchisees' attempts to reorganize ill-fated. Burger King doesn't plan to let them keep ownership of these properties. If the franchisees refuse to play along, the brand is ready to take them to court to recover about $10 million in unpaid royalties and fees. To make matters worse, Burger King's parent company, Restaurant Brands International, RBI, is also currently at risk. Chairman Patrick Doyle acknowledges that selling the company may be the only viable option if the financial conditions worsen further. Burger King relies heavily on its network of private franchisees to manage restaurants worldwide. But in 2023, many U.S.-based operators are hanging by a thread. The tension between corporate and franchisees seems to be on the rise. Doyle has made it clear that underperforming operators need to step aside. The company wants its restaurants to be run by people who can make them thrive. They're even willing to step in and help run restaurants if needed. There are no shortcuts when it comes to running a successful business, according to Doyle. Now, let's take a step back and understand why these bankruptcies are happening. First, it's interesting to note that Burger King's major competitors like McDonald's, Taco Bell, and Wendy's haven't faced these problems. So why is Burger King struggling while others are thriving? One of the biggest issues is that they didn't have a financial cushion like many of their competitors did during the COVID-19 pandemic. Burger King fell behind its rivals in the digital game. Even before the pandemic hit, they didn't invest enough in online sales and marketing. So when COVID-19 forced everyone to order online, Burger King wasn't as ready as it should have been. When businesses reopened, inflation started to kick in, and this hit Burger King's profits hard. Their margins started shrinking, making it even tougher for them to catch up with their competitors. Another challenge for Burger King is its debt situation. This is where things get a bit technical, but let us break it down for you. According to Inside Tester, an equity research analyst with CFRA Research, Burger King has a higher debt-to-earnings ratio compared to its competitors. This means they have less room to take on more debt for big projects like upgrading their U.S. franchise stores. In simple terms, think of it like this. Imagine you have a credit card. If you have a lot of debt on that card, it's tough to use it for other things. Burger King is in a similar situation. They have a lot of debt, which makes it harder for them to invest in making their stores better. And if interest rates go up, which they have been doing, it becomes even more challenging for Burger King. Rising interest rates make it more expensive to borrow money, and that's not good for a company trying to turn things around. All this puts the franchises in a tough position. Burger King's profitability in the U.S. has been dropping for over a decade. Between 2010 and 2020, their annual revenues decreased by a whopping 36%. To put it in numbers, in 2010, Burger King made around $2.5 billion, but in 2020, it was only $1.9 billion. Even before the pandemic hit, Burger King was facing declining revenue. For example, between 2012 and 2013, their revenue dropped by a significant 41.6%. How are the investors reacting to this massive decline in profits? Last month, Restaurant Brands International shared some not-so-great news with its shareholders. They revealed that sales in the last quarter were down by 2% compared to the previous year. This drop in sales made investors nervous, and it caused shares in the company to drop. What's making things worse is that Burger King's efforts at promotional meals are flopping hard. Promotions like buy one, get one for $1 and 2 for $6 on Whoppers and chicken and fish sandwiches didn't attract as many customers as the 2 for $5 deal they had in 2020. This created a big gap in earnings compared to the previous year. Let's talk about competition. In June, Burger King's domestic same-store sales increased by only 1.1%. While any growth is good, this gain was pretty disappointing when you compare it to its biggest competitor, McDonald's. McDonald's managed to increase its sales by a whopping 15% during the same period. And here's something that might surprise you. Burger King lost its spot as America's second-largest burger chain in 2021. Wendy's surpassed Burger King to become the nation's #2 hamburger chain by sales, according to data from Technomic. Wendy's saw its system sales increase by 4.8%, while Burger King's dropped by 5.4%, reaching $9.6 billion. At that time, Wendy's had only 6,000 restaurants, while Burger King had just over 7,500 U.S. locations. So why did this happen? Well, some experts believe that Burger King struggled to find the right value offerings for its customers. They kept changing their value menus, going from a $1 Your Way menu in December 2019 to a $5 Your Way menu by January 2023. In contrast, Wendy's focused on premium offerings like the Pretzel Bacon Pub Cheeseburger and the Jalapeno Popper Chicken, which drove a 10% increase in sales. This suggests that value for many customers means both innovation and quality. When we look at market share, Burger King faces another challenge. Yum Brands, which operates KFC, Taco Bell, Pizza Hut, and Habit Burger restaurants, reported a 7% increase in net sales last year. This shows that Burger King might be losing ground to other big players in the fast food industry. What does the data reveal about Burger King's current position? Market and consumer data from Statista recently published data on the top 15 leading fast food restaurant chains in the U.S. by system-wide sales. These past few years have been tough for the fast food industry as a whole, and the data shows that Burger King's popularity among consumers has decreased significantly. In the 2019 rankings, Burger King held the second spot, but is now down to 6th place. This suggests that the company's market share is shrinking. To put it into perspective, McDonald's has a global market share of 21.4%, followed by Starbucks at 7.5%, KFC and Subway both at 2.8%. Burger King lags behind with just a 1.2% share of the global fast food market. While Burger King's net profit stood at $1 billion in 2022, McDonald's profits skyrocketed to $7.5 billion, and Wendy's reached $1.9 billion. Customer satisfaction also dropped significantly, with a 40% decrease over the past 6 quarters. Customers have been complaining about the declining quality, the lack of healthier options, and rising menu prices. It's clear that Burger King is facing some serious challenges. The fast food giant, which once stood at the top, is now grappling with declining sales, increased competition, and a shrinking market share. As we've seen in recent events like the retail apocalypse and bank collapses, no company is too big to fail. In fact, we've done a video on 15 restaurant chains in America that have filed for bankruptcy. Click the video on screen now to find out which chains are in similar deep waters.